Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and all of you who are watching. My name is Cody Campbell, and I've had many experiences throughout my life that have taught me many things. But this story is to tell you about a particular event that I experienced that taught me an extremely valuable lesson about life. This story takes place long ago in my childhood years while living on the ranch that I grew up on. This story is extremely important because I think back to it whenever I am tempted to have the opportunity to steal, lie, or cheat someone. And it is important because the lesson that I learned from experiencing it has prevented me from allowing this temptation to affect my life or the lives of others negatively. I'm honored to share this experience that I've had with all of you today who are watching, and I hope that my experience may be able to influence you to teach you the same lesson that it taught me. I would like to begin with a bit of context to provide a clearer picture of what life was like for me as a child. When I was around the age of 7, I was living on a ranch in central Texas with my mother, my father, and 2 brothers. At the time, I was new to most things in life and frequently failed to recognize my stature on the matter of basic concepts of morality and simple principles of living, and was usually displaced from the ability to understand the meaning of lessons by my pride, which pushed me usually to a level of unwillingness to learn from my mistakes. Because I was a smart 7-year-old that knew everything. I'm sure all of us have experienced this level of ego inflation at some point in our lives. At the time of this event taking place, being punished was a common occurrence for me, as I frequently let my ego take over and take control of what I was doing rather than consider the consequences that would be inevitable for me and my family and anyone who would be affected by my irrational actions. Now, as for the particular event that allowed me to recognize this lesson, I shall explain the incident that occurred. It was a warm, slightly humid summer day on the ranch, and I had been out fishing at the pond, which is situated near the back of the property on the valley side of a large hill surrounded by trees and brush with my father, who was the one who taught me how to fish and loved fishing himself. As we reeled in one bass after another, I asked my father, who was obviously catching more fish than me, how he was capable of catching so many bass every time we fished together. He then proceeded to show me his tackle box, which was filled with a myriad of fishing lures. But there was one specific lure he pointed out which was his favorite. After he identified this favorite lure of his, he told me that I could go out and fish with any of the lures in the box that I wanted, except for this one favorite one that he told me not to touch or use because it was his favorite. The next day, I went fishing alone on the ranch as my father had gone to work. My mother was busy taking care of the house, and my brothers were away doing something else. So alone, I went and brought my father's tackle box with me to the pond. As I was rigging up my line, I looked through the vast assortment of artificial bass lures and automatically knew that the one my father showed me was the best. So immediately I tied a knot around the one and attached it to the end of my line, even though I knew my father would be furious if he found out. As I started toward the bank of the pond with my fishing pole, I had proceeded to cast my line out into the water, placing the lure close to a sunken tree branch, which I had known was a nesting ground for the pond's inhabitants. The first 3 or 4 casts yielded nothing, but my persistence was just as great as my willpower, and it kept me pushing and trying for a bass. I continued to fish as close to the branch as I could get, and with only a few casts, I found my lure to be hung up on a tree branch. Immediately, I panicked and became distressed with my father's lure that would be unretrievable. So I yanked on the line, trying to break free from the branch, only to become more stuck. After a few attempts to try and yank the lure loose, the line suddenly snapped and my father's lure was gone. The next day, my father noticed that his favorite lure was missing, and he asked me if I'd seen it. To his question, I responded that I didn't touch the lure, and I did not know what happened to it. He took my word for it and went on about his day. A few days went by as the summer got warmer. The pond slowly lost water and it evaporated due to the heat of the sun. Eventually, the pond got low enough that the tree, which was sunken, had become exposed to the air, with my father's fishing lure dangling from one of the branches. Of course, my father found out about this before I did and realized what happened. This, that I had lied to him to avoid getting in trouble. That day was not a good day for me because my father found out about what I did, and I was given chores for the rest of the week and had to help my mom take care of the house instead of going fishing, which was a humiliating experience. I remember telling my father how sorry I was for losing his favorite lure, but the lesson he wanted me to learn became obvious as he stated that he wasn't upset for losing his lure at all. He was only mad because I had lied to him, and he wanted me to never steal from anyone again and to always be honest. And that is my story.